Knock, knock. Back on the door. Who is it? It's WHIT. Welcome to 60 feet 6 inches. Oh, it's so good to be back. We are 56 days away until opening day. Commission's on vacation. Wolverines behind the board. And we got a new guest, everybody. We got T-DAWG. T-DAWG, what's going on, man?
What's up, what's up, what's up? Glad to be a part of it, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. So before we jump into it, everybody loves this part of the show. Myself, on this day in baseball history, we're going to jump right in. On this day in baseball history, the National League releases its first 162-game schedule, T-DAWG. So before he won, Ford Frick had released a 162-game season, and of course, if everybody knows history, then they know that that year is whenever Roger Maris hit his 61st home run, breaking Babe Ruth's single-season record by another Yankee, of course. And there was a lot of talk about him putting an asterisk on it because it's not a full season. They had a 154-game season, so they decided to try it out. Because there were a lot of teams that were added. 10 teams were actually added to the league in full. And then in 62, the National League decided to, let's just follow suit, So, they added a couple other teams, especially the New York Mets, the Metropolitans. That was their first year. And, returning from, for them being in the National League, they started playing at the Polo Grounds again before it started, getting torn down. And then after a 4-year absence of all that good stuff. And then the Houston Colt 45s, before they became the Houston Astros, came around. And then Houston won a respectable 64 games to finish in 8th place. And then Casey Stengels, the former skipper of the New York Yankees for so many years, they lost a record of 120 games. 120. Success? I guess it depends upon how you look at it. A new team, new town. Sometimes it can get with a new team, a new town. You don't really know the identity of the team, especially if everybody are Yankee fans. Kind of like whenever you had the New York Giants, New York Yankees, and the Brooklyn Dodgers all in the same area. So the Giants were the National League, the Brooklyn Dodgers American League, and then they ended up moving from Brooklyn to Los Angeles, and then the Giants ended up moving to San Francisco. But a good thing on this day in baseball history. Another thing, wait, before we go, I want to mention that on this day, February 1st, Eiji Sawamura was a 17-year-old pitcher from Japan. Now, whenever the MLB used to go and travel around, they used to go to Egypt, which is actually on this day. Actually, that's funny. I remember that. But they used to go to Egypt, have exhibition games. So whenever Eiji was pitching, he pitched against great players like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Double Fox, Jimmy. And then he was actually pitching that game, struck them all out. And it's unfortunate because Eiji would untimely pass away during World War II. And now the Nippon League Cy Young Award, quote-unquote, that's what they call it. They actually named that award after him. So it's a good thing to recognize it, because we're just not about American baseball or about baseball in general. So I thought that was great, in this day in baseball history, T-DAWG,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We go from how many games did you say they played in
154.
154. They went up 8 games, 162 nowadays. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about shortening the season again.
I know.
All these players coming out. I know recently Anthony Rendon came out. Guy doesn't play anyways. He's hurt all the time ever since he's went to the Angels.
And he's a great player. I like him.
Great player. With Washington, I advocated for him to come to the Braves. He's just that good of a player. Yeah. He spoke out loud on, I think it was MLB Network.
It was.
Last week.
I speak candidly. That's what he said. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things to where I think that it does. I'm sure as a player, if you do want to be on the field, it's frustrating whenever you can't. We've seen many players that try to go out there like DeGrom. I've seen many interviews with DeGrom, especially after he's torn his UCL, and even during an interview, break down because he wants to be out there. He wants to be a competitive player. But Anthony Rendon has always been a guy. In my eyes, seeing him, with the Nationals, seemed like he was a great guy, great player. Mm-hmm. He used to rake. Yeah. But it could just be to where I don't want to say he came to Los Angeles to just get paid and not play, but it's kind of tough to not make that argument whenever he's making comments like that on national television.
Yeah, and he was very seemed like he was very adamant about it happening sooner rather than later as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I know it's been talked about before. We'll see where it goes. I don't know when the next CBA is up. I think it's in another few years. So I guess I'm sure that will be talked about at some point in time. My personal opinion, I like the way it is. But, hey, what do I have to say in it?
I hope they don't change anything because that little lockout, after that was just reminded me of almost like the strike in 94, whenever – I'm going off topic. I like to do that. But Tony Gwynn would have been a 400 hitter in the 94 season if it was cut short. And I believe that the Braves would have won the World Series that year also, and then in 95. But I digress.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I wasn't born yet, but I've seen enough videos and everything of the 94 team and what they did again in 95, and I think they had a good shot for sure.
Absolutely. 60 feet, 6 inches is for all ages, T-DAWG. It's for all ages. But on this day in baseball history, it has been, in my opinion, it's been such a slow offseason. It seems like that there's, how a couple of years ago, there used to be like a wave. Once one top player went, then it was like a domino effect or Jenga where they all just started to fall, and then you'd have deals every day, like that. But I mean, there has been some things starting to traction. I mean, it's February 1st. I mean, you got pitchers and catchers reporting soon. The season starts in 56 days. So, I mean, a lot of, and we'll talk about that later in the show, but there's a lot of players that you would expect to be literally taken right off the shelf are still hanging around. And now they're getting to the point where they're down to the manager special. Wolverine, you know what I'm talking about? But getting down to the manager special because nobody signed them. But I mean, there has been, some excitement, and stuff like that. But one thing that I want to get into right off the bat is the Orioles are selling the team. The Angelos family that has been owning them since I think it was 94, 31 years. I mean, they're selling them to a big group of billionaires. Got more money than we do, but seems like they're going in the direction where they want to spend money. They want to put a good team on, ball club on the field. Maybe go after pitching because I feel like that them winning 101 games last year. I don't think that there's a lot they need to change, but maybe they'll have a little bit more money in their pocket, and especially with Cal Ripken Jr. part of the investment team to purchase the team, maybe they'll be sticking around for a while in Baltimore. Maybe not like where the Browns moved from St. Louis and then came to Baltimore, So it's been that was kind of a shock, but it could be to where it's one of those things to where sometimes whenever it's good to sell, you sell. I don't know if you know about this, T-DAWG, but they between the family of the Angelos, they had many lawsuits within the last couple of years about saying one brother said that whenever the father's going to pass away, I'm going to get steak, and then one brother said this, I'm going to get steak. Well, the mother ended up suing both of the sons, and then they ended up settling out of court. So now I think it's one of those things to where they're ready to sell. And Ardo Marino, if you were listening to this, you need to sell the Angels. Sell the Angels. Sell.
Agree.
Thank you.
That's all I can say about that.
Exactly, right.
Mike Trout in the playoffs, please and thank you. We all want it. Baseball
and you would think that Perry Manasseh over the GM of the Angels would have at least traded Ohtani to at least giving him something, only because if you don't, then what you're doing now is you're handcuffing a team to where you have lost a great player to where he's a pitcher. He is a DH. He could be a right fielder. I mean, he probably could play any position because he's so talented. But, Ohtani going to the Dodgers, like we talked about last episode, he's there to stay. And it seems like that's, I mean, any time that he goes to another team, it's going to have an impact, But the Dodgers was, as a player, you being a former player as well, T-DAWG, I mean, It's got to make a difference if you're in a good environment to where you want to win, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, winning is all you want to do. I mean, what are you out there to lose? I mean, I know these guys get paid. They get paid whether they win, lose, don't play, or hit 100 or hit 400.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, I mean, you're all there for one common goal, and that's to win. Right. And at the end of the day, when everything's done, and whether it be end of October, early November, you want the World Series. I mean, and sometimes – some guys are different, but, I mean, they all have one common goal, and that is to win.
Right, and Ohtani was even willing to take less money, and I think that coming from his perspective, being all that time in Los Angeles and having a lot of talent around him, not just Trout, but, I mean, the team itself. Yep. And then the management doesn't – well, I'm not going to say they don't want to win. I'm sure they did, but don't make an effort, because on paper – that speaks a lot. I mean, you can get all these kinds of players, this, that, but then if you don't make an effort to try to win, then I mean, a player is going to be there unhappy. I mean, I'm not speaking for Michael Trout, but I'm sure this guy, I mean, he's got all the money in the world, but coming from a player perspective, my perspective, and your perspective as well, I mean, if you're a good team or you're a good player itself, even if you're not around a winning team, or once you get on a winning team, money is the last thing that you're thinking about, because if you're good enough, you're going to get paid regardless, right?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, you would think that. I mean, people go sometimes where the money's at, and that sometimes money also follows with winning.
Right.
It just depends on, some guys I know. Prime example, Chipper Jones took a pay cut to stay in Atlanta.
That's right.
He said, hey, go get who you want to get. I'm here. Right. I'll take less. I want to win with this team and this team only. And, they weren't able to get it done, obviously. I mean, they had a couple of runs there towards the end of his career where they, made the playoffs, but just couldn't get things done, whether it be the outfield fly rule.
Oh, my gosh.
But anyways, we're going to skip that
I wish I could talk to Matt Holliday and Pete Cosma just one time and ask him who called that ball. Which one of y'all called the ball? But yeah, I mean, whenever I think it was 04, 05, we went out and got Vinny Castilla. Chipper went to left field because it was better for the team. Well, it was a better decision for Chipper to move, because I don't think Vinny could have been anywhere else as far as position. He definitely ain't going to play the outfield. But Chipper, being, as athletic as he was, decided to do that. And he actually wasn't too bad. He's actually pretty solid. But I mean, you have sometimes whenever you do, even though I'm sure that the Angelos family probably didn't want to sell the Orioles because they've been in ownership roles for such a long time. Sometimes it's best to let it go, and then you have other people that can supplement that money to bring more talent on the field. So Artie Moreno, please take this advice. Please sell the Angels, please. And Mike Trout, you are one of the greatest talented players that we have seen in the last of our generation. And same thing with Ohtani, and you still couldn't win. Now, keep in mind, two guys cannot win.
That is correct.
By itself.
It's not basketball.
Right, exactly. But it definitely does help. But especially if you got Anthony Rendon, who, on paper, before he went to Los Angeles, was a great player, solid and durable. But don't grab me by the shirt, Rendon. I like you.
The selling of the Orioles. I was reading something earlier about that. I don't know the exact amount which they sold it at, but I read somewhere they sold it for 10 times the amount they bought it for back in '94.
Yeah, I think it was like $174 million they bought it for and sold it up for over $1 billion.
I guess they're getting out nice.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's so funny whenever you talk about the dollar amount and then how much Ohtani is going to make over time. On paper, it seems like it's far apart, but then if you look at $700 million and then $1 billion. $300 million is really not that far apart.
No, it is not.
So it's, I mean, if Ohtani is thinking about buying a franchise, buy the Dodgers, and then you can just buy whoever you want put on the team, But speaking about, buying players and putting players on the team, I mean, it's been kind of a slow offseason, a lot slower than I remember, T-DAWG. A lot slower. I mean, there's been a lot of trades here and there, but nothing really significant. I've got a huge list because it's been. We had a show about 10 days before Christmas, and it's been, we intended to get back in the studio and do it, but, everybody's got family going on, New Year's, stuff like that. But sometimes it's best to wait to where, we've got a short time before the season starts in spring training, and now we can kind of rapid fire about all the deals that have taken place since, I think it's December 15th up to now. So one significant thing is the Rays have finally parted ways with Tyler Glasnow. And Manuel Margot, but he's on the Dodgers. So that's an arm which, the Dodgers have never, I wouldn't say never, but not lately have they really been strong in the starting pitching department.
You got 2 to 3 years probably.
Yeah.
It's been that.
Exactly,
last year they definitely weren't.
No.
They had a lot of injuries and relying on Clayton Kershaw.
Right.
We talked about that in the last podcast. You can't rely on a 38, 39-year-old. I mean, Braves aren't Charlie Morton, but, I mean, not everybody's Charlie Morton.
No. He's still throwing, 96, 97? Yeah. I mean, that guy's got a rubber arm. And then I think Dustin May, he's been hurt the last couple of years. Big Red, he's a great pitcher. But they just really haven't had that solid rotation where I think that helps supplement the offense, But they got Tyler Glass now, and whenever he's healthy, and he could throw it. And I didn't realize how big that dude was. He's like 6'9" or something like that. That's a center in basketball.
But his last name is Glass.
True. And
very injury prone.
Unfortunately, he has been. I mean, I want to say, I don't even know if it was last year or year before, where, I mean, he couldn't even finish 3 or 4 innings or something like that. Not saying that he can't do that now. I mean, it's a different year. But, I mean, I can, commend the Dodgers are going out and trying to get somebody, to help that. But, I mean, literally a couple of days after that now this could be to make Ohtani more comfortable, or it could be this pitcher to make comfortable. They went out and signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and they're paying this guy. Keep in mind, this guy has not stepped on a major league mound ever. They're paying him 12 years, $325 million.
Wow.
Now, I think that could supplement the rotation, but you think, as a former pitcher, T, do you think that, is it more that the Dodgers are desperate to get maybe more reliable pitching? Or is it hype? Or is it a little bit of both? Does it have anything to do with Ohtani?
I think, especially in this, I don't know how to say his name. I apologize. But I think in the sense, I mean, we all heard that Ohtani wanted to play with other Japanese people.
Yeah, he wants to feel comfortable.
Yeah, he wants to feel comfortable, which 100% agree with him.
Right.
I think it was a little bit about the hype, and obviously the Dodgers need starting pitching help.
Right.
I mean,
right,
obviously, it's very obvious they
right.
needed it. And they went out there and got this guy. I mean, 12 years, $325 million.
Dang.
And has never stepped on a Major League Baseball field. Never. I mean, you look at his stats from Japan. I mean, they are very good.
I've seen a couple, games and bullpen sessions, and of course, I think he was at the Baseball Classic also.
Yep.
And Japan did win. I mean, so that has a lot to say about it. But like you were saying, being comfortable has a lot to do with it, I think. And I think that with Ohtani being there and then them kind of being at the hip, I think that, in my opinion, playing baseball, being comfortable is probably the most important thing, and it takes a lot of pressure off you. And if you got some, guy that's where you're from, played with you and stuff like that, it can kind of relax you a little bit, and there's not so much pressure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. But that's a big signing. I mean, you got a couple guys, Mariners going out and getting Mitch Garver, 2 years, 24. Blue Jays getting Kevin Kiermaier, which he's a solid outfielder. Isaiah.
Underrated.
Yeah,
underrated,
exactly.
in my mind.
I think so. He's durable. Plays well, great glove. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to the Blue Jays, which they're paying him 2 years, 15. Which, I mean, his defense is great. I remember Aaron Boone talking about him. The reason why he was on the Yankees is because of his direction and also his leadership as well, and him being able to adjust. You can put him somewhere or there or whatever. But you got. Lucas Giolito, this is not that big, but I wanted to touch on that only because this is a guy that's getting paid 2 years, $38.5 by the Red Sox, which you and I both know he's not worth that.
Nope.
Maybe not now, because whenever he got traded to the Angels after he left Chicago, that man got touched.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was.
I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the scenery. I don't know if, cold feet, something like that, because I went to a game at Truist Park and watched that was the game that Giolito started, and I think Yanni Chirinos was starting for the Atlanta Braves.
It was during those times where we were just throwing out anyone and
everyone. That's how it was in that season. And Giolito, even though, and I'm not downplaying his professionalism, his ability as a major league pitcher, but he got touched that game. I think he gave up like 8 runs in like 5 innings.
That happened to a lot of pitchers against the Braves this year.
That's right. But the Red Sox, once they got Giolito and solidified maybe a little bit part of their pitching rotation, I was thinking, you know what? You got Giolito, you got a couple other guys on the team, and you got Chris Sale, but they went and traded Chris Sale right after they got Giolito. And they traded him to the Braves just straight up for Vaughn Grissom, which was a great toted prospect. His first home run at Fenway. Maybe that the Red Sox management, because to be honest, they haven't really been doing much.
Yeah, they've been a little lackluster these past few years. Yeah, it's funny about the Red Sox. They'll be down a few years, and then out of nowhere, then a random year they'll just come out and be World Series contenders.
Exactly,
the whole
right.
year.
In
Then
18, whenever it was, it was crazy.
They just wind up winning one year, and then they go back down into the sinkhole again.
Which I think that the biggest mistake that they made was not trying to find a way to keep Mookie Betts. It trickled down right after that. But the Red Sox sent $17 million to Atlanta to subsidize for that Chris Sale, and then the Braves turned right back around and then signed him to an extension, 2 years, $38 million, and then a club option in 26, which I would take a chance on Chris Sale any single season. If he's 100% healthy, he's been having like some crazy freak accidents where he had a ball hit right back at him, broke his pinky, had a stress rib fracture, because I think, all that slinging that he does sometimes, but he said he's healthy this year. So I'm actually kind of excited for him to join that rotation. But other than that, there's a couple things. You got Robbie Ray getting traded, from Seattle to the Mariners, Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeScalfani. I'm definitely mispronouncing that, but I know exactly how to say it. When you look at it, you just can't. And then the Cubs finally do something. Finally, they throw a pebble in the lake and get Shota Imanaga. And that's 4 years, $54 million. But you were telling me, T-Dawg, that you looked at his age today. He's 30.
He's 30 already.
And
already. He's played, I think it was 8 or 9 years over in Japan.
Yeah.
But 30 already. And I know it happens a lot with those guys. They're older coming out of there whenever they get assigned or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works. But 30 years old, taking a throw in the dark pretty much at this guy.
Exactly.
Just hoping that he's going to be good.
Move.
Yeah, just to say, hey, we did something.
They're still, I think they're still paying for Dansby, and they may still be paying for Hayward. He may have been falling off now, but whenever they went out and got Dansby, I was thinking that that's a good move for them. But what happens after that? You got Nico, which I think him and Nico actually up the middle are actually pretty solid.
Yeah, I like Nico a lot.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He is very good.
And then they had Bellinger last year, which he was a good fit there. But a couple other signs. The Giants signed Jordan Hicks. That dude throws straight up cheddar. $11 million for a good reliever. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that is very fair for a guy like him. I know he's been having a few down years. He's been hurt a little bit.
Couple control issues too in St. Louis.
But I think he's going to turn it around. I think he'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. And then the Southpaw Fireball, Josh Hader finally finds a home.
Payday.
Yeah, he went to Houston and they're paying him 5 years, $95 million. Which, that's like Edwin Diaz money, right?
Yeah, that's... I know he's been great. 5 years, $95 million. How much do you expect to get out of him out of those 5 years?
That's a good question.
I'm good friends with a guy in Houston. He's a big Astros fan, and as soon as this happened, I texted him. I was like, "Oh, is this an overpay, or what do you think about this?"
Right.
He said, "If we get 3 good years out of him, we'll win one more ship."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I could care less what happens."
Well, I guess.
And I think that's how a lot of people feel about it.
If you get at least one championship out of those years, then it should be okay. Let's not talk to Bob Melvin, where Bob Melvin didn't want to put him in, or maybe it was, I can't remember if it was Bob Melvin or if it was Josh that's saying, I'm not going in there when we're going to lose and just waste my arm. So, the competitiveness side is there, but then that attitude's got to be there too. You know?
We can kind of say the same thing about Chris Sale. He's had an attitude problem as well. It kind of follows him. We'll see. Maybe that's what the Braves need in the clubhouse, is a guy that will fire him up every now and then about certain different things. But you can't go over the edge too far.
No.
You can't go over the edge. And
I can tell you, I would have ripped up those ugly Chicago jerseys too, with those little shorts that they were wearing with those collars, man. Those things are hideous. But Rhys Hoskins finally finds a home because he's going to Milwaukee. They're paying him 2 years, $34 million, which I don't know if I would have paid him that, but they need a first baseman, somebody that's going to be solid. And the thing is, I think the last couple of years for Hoskins was like him like a deer in the headlights, because whenever Harper went from right field to first base, they decided, well, we're just going to change that. We're going to keep him there. And I think that Harper has definitely embraced that role, but then Rhys Hoskins was like, well, hey, I've been your first baseman all these years.
And what happened to me?
Right, exactly. But
To me? I'm just an afterthought now.
Sorry, we're not paying you over $300 million, so we're just gonna let you go. And we just signed Trey. I don't know if you know that, but we gotta get you out of there.
We don't have any money.
So I mean, Reese could completely find a surge. He's getting there a little bit late. It's because Council's in Chicago now.
Are the Brewers gonna be good this year?
I don't know, man. I mean, you got a good catcher. You got Contreras.
Yeah.
I
miss him.
You got Corbin Burns, who's going to be, if he's not traded before the deadline, he'll still be there. You got a great closer in what's his name? Devin Williams. Excuse me.
Nasty change.
Yes.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Best changeup ever.
But you got. I'm not sure if you have you had Donaldson on there last year, which. I don't know. They have a lot of holes.
Yeah.
And a lot
it's
of.
going to be interesting to see what they do the rest of the offseason going into spring training.
Maybe they're just making that splash just like how some teams do, just to at least do something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the Cubs did with Shota, to be honest. But and then yesterday, or day before yesterday, Jorge Polanco, great second baseman, utility player. Well, not really utility. He's pretty much been at second, but you could put him anywhere. He got traded to the Mariners. And then it's so funny that Anthony DeSclafani got traded literally within a couple weeks of each other. Got traded from the Mariners to the Giants, and now he's going from the Twins, or from the Giants to the Twins, and then to the Mariners also. So he's been kind of moving around. He didn't know where he was going to end up.
Well, I guess it's better than in the middle of the season where you're having to move a lot.
That's true.
The good old Jesse Chavez moving across coast to coast
I wonder what
3-4
he's
times a
doing
year.
right now.
I miss old Jesse, Uncle Jess.
He was in there for like 19 years or something like that.
Most traded guy ever in MLB or something like that. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, but hey, if the Braves bring him back on a nice little 1 year, $1 million, I wouldn't mind it. I mean the guy eats innings.
Exactly, and he's durable. He's been sticking around. He's still there. I mean, I think what really kind of set it back is whenever Cabrera hit that freaking line drive off his shin and shattered his shin.
Yeah, that was a season for him.
I would have kept that ball right there.
Hell yeah,
because he's going to be a first round Hall of Famer, first ballot. I mean, but I would have taken that in stride. And then lastly, Justin Turner. He's been bouncing around. After he left L.A., he went to Boston. Actually didn't do too bad. I think he was hitting like 275 or something like that, which that's what you're going to get out of him.
Numbers, yep.
Yeah. But I thought, to be honest, maybe a reunion in L.A. was going to happen, but turns out, he went to Canada. And the Blue Jays are going to pay him $13 million, which I wouldn't pay him that, but hey, says a lot about clubhouse guys and the environment that you bring in. A lot of the time, like Alex Anthopoulos of the Atlanta Braves, brings in certain guys to kind of ramp him up, like a Jock Peterson or something like that. Which, speaking of, he's going to the Diamondbacks, that's kind of unexpected, but, he's a good guy that can give you a good left-handed bat off the bench, or even, a DH guy and stuff like that. But, so, I mean, we're kind of caught up as far as, like, the moves and stuff like that, and that's really what's been going on. I mean, you got a couple of free agents that are still, hanging around, like Blake Snell. He hasn't been unsigned, which I saw a report yesterday because Scott Boras is his agent. He's looking for like 250 or north of that.
I mean, I know he had a great year, but that walk rate, man.
I know.
If he can calm that down just a ton, I mean, I think he is worth him. He's top 5 in the league, but I mean,
exactly.
I know he had a great year, but I mean, walk weight. And
it's tough whenever you won 2 Cy Youngs, especially after this year. Whenever he actually did really well, his second half was insane that he had his second half this year, but. If you're walking all these guys, what happens if you walk Acuna? That dude's going to be on third before you know it.
Yep, blink, and he's there.
That's it, exactly. A bleeder, which I know you as a former pitcher, I know you hate those.
Oh God, I'd rather you hit a line drive off of me.
Those little bloops right behind shortstop in between third base right there.
Hit a line drive off of me. Hit it hardest ball you've ever hit. Exactly. I'd rather you do that than
hit one
break
right
your
off the
bat
hands. Or
something, and you get
exactly right. But I mean, you got Cody Bellinger, I guess, still on the block. I mean, Jordan Montgomery, Whit Merrifield, which is actually very surprising. I don't know about Whit Merrifield not being signed.
Yeah, that one interests me a little bit. I don't know if he's looking for the perfect spot where they're going to guarantee him, hey, you're going to be playing second base until you can't prove that you can't play second base anymore. Because I know he came out and said that that's his preferred
that's where he wanted to play. But
position.
I mean, and I think that sometimes with with players, well, it doesn't hurt them, but sometimes if players don't establish that primary position, then you get bounced around and stuff like that, and then before you know it, you don't really have an identity as a player, you know?
Talking about bouncing around, going off topic, sorry.
No, go ahead. Let's do it.
Talking about a utility player, I was just watching today, actually. Charlie Culberson is coming back to the Braves.
I saw
to
that.
be a pitcher.
He throws about 95.
Yeah, I mean, he's a mop-up role only, in the places he's been. I know he's the Rangers, the Braves. And
he's our new Jesse Chavez.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I like to hear. But he's coming back on a minor league deal to be a pitcher.
That's cool that Alex Anthopoulos he's going to give him a chance.
He's from the Atlanta area.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame him at all. Hey, give it a shot. I mean, he's
we gonna pay
34.
$1 million?
Yeah, 34, 35 years old. I mean,
that's
one
fine
last
with me.
shot. One last shot, baby. Let's go.
Right. I wonder if he is actually going to break the roster after spring training, because I know that Tyler Matzik is coming back. He's feeling good, which we missed him so much last year.
We can go on and on about the guys that the Braves are getting back this year.
Yeah.
You got Ian Anderson. You got
Yes.
Westgar Enoa coming back.
That's
Both
right.
of them are probably around the same schedule.
Too bad
Tommy
Westgar
John.
can't hit like he used to, because I think he hit 2 bombs, 1 grand slam, a couple
against
years ago.
Yeah, against the Nationals. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And then you got so many guys on the bullpen now. We have a solid bullpen.
Solid bullpen. I think the best bullpen. I know last year was a pretty good bullpen. We
Right.
had some pieces coming up and down all the time, but I think this year that bullpen's going to be solid through and through. It doesn't matter if our starter goes 5 or starter goes 7. I think you still got a top lead arm coming in, no matter what inning it is.
Yeah, and I think that, it was kind of a unexpected surprise with Joe Jimenez. I really liked him a lot. I mean, he just comes in there and deals, and then the Braves have this habit of having these guys that they like and immediately signing them because they want to keep them here and make them stay comfortable because they may have families or something like that. They don't want to keep bouncing them around or stuff like that. But if you're Jesse Chavez, he don't care.
Nope.
He just wants to play. But one last guy, Matt Chapman, very good defensive third baseman. He is stuck out on the block. And I haven't heard a peep about that guy. I don't know what's going on.
I have no idea. I really don't. I thought maybe he would go back to maybe Toronto and get a reunion with them, but that's not happening. They just got Justin Turner.
Yeah.
I was reading some things today. Maybe the Giants, maybe the Cubs make something out of it. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to command a lot of money, talking about the $15-20 million range. I don't know exactly, or if he's maybe going to go on a prove-it deal, Alex Anthopoulos special right there.
Yeah, right.
The 1-year deal for a decent amount of money to see what he can do, and then we'll, see what...
I would think that his defense itself would be enough to at least get him 10 to 12, 13 million.
You would think, yeah.
But,
that's
him
a
having
solid
a couple
third
platinum
baseman.
gloves.
You got the hot corner locked down with him.
I guess, I don't, maybe... There's got to be something that the front offices know, and maybe they talk about within each other that us, outside don't know.
Yeah.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something with all these guys that we listed, because I know Jordan Montgomery. I thought that the Atlanta Braves were going to scoop him up until we got Sale.
South Carolina grad, baby.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Philip Corey's like a dog, and then Bellinger. I'm not as much surprised that he's not signed because He's an MVP. We can never take that away from him, of course. But he is like the stock market. He's go up and then he goes straight down. He goes up and he goes straight down. Goes up and he goes straight down. So I think that a lot of teams don't want to fully commit because, kind of like what we were talking about with Hader, that's only 5 years. But Cody, he's the kind of player to where he don't want that. He wants like 7 or 8, 9 years or something like that. So we're going to stay put. I thought that, Chicago was going to go after him, but
I think that's been the breaking point on some of these, maybe the teams that he's been talking to. He's wanting those multi-years, and I don't think teams are willing to give those multi-year deals to this guy that, like you said, is like the stock market, is up and down.
Right.
Day to day, pretty much.
And he actually did. I thought he actually did really well in Chicago, and I thought that was going to be the place. I mean, I think Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner were talking about how they really enjoyed, him being there, but... I guess like we talked about, some of those front offices see something that we don't, and maybe it's a clubhouse kind of problem or issue. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these
we don't know.
Teams,
that's the thing. We won't know till
exactly.
he's far and gone out.
You know what? Also, it just came to mind. You know what I saw? Alex Wood, of all people, signed with the A's. I was so blindsided by that. I'm thinking And the thing is, I've looked at the reports and stuff like that. I don't even know what they're paying him.
Where was he before?
He was with I want to say with San Francisco, but I could be wrong. He may have gone somewhere else or something like that. I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but I saw him. I was thinking, days, you know, right before they're about to leave and go to Oakland, that's very devastating to me. I hate that for Oakland fans, but I mean, if you don't put a project on the field, Fisher, I mean, these fans are not going to show up, you know, but you know, I mean, you got a couple guys, but moving on. So the Hall of Fame ballot came out. Everybody voted. We got some guys in, which I thought that the guys that got voted in were obvious shoo-ins, but then there were a couple that kind of surprised me, you know. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that have been on the ballot for a couple of years, some guys that were first year on the ballot that got right in, you know. But Jim Leyland, Hall of Fame manager, I mean, that's expected. I mean, his mentality, him just crushing heaters in the dugout. Like, I love that guy. I love his mentality.
Old school, real old school.
I mean, whenever you see, if anybody's watched the video between him and Barry Bonds in spring training going after it, you know, Jim Leyland is a no BS guy. Like, he don't care. He don't care what kind of talent you are. He don't care how much you get paid. He is the manager, and he's going to run that team how he sees fit. And you know, I'm kind of missing that kind of old school kind of way of him managing. But you know, he's got a World Series under his belt with the Marlins in '97, which was insanely random that year. Which they were a good team. Had Lowell, AJ Burnett, Juan Pierre, Dontrell Willis. I mean, Miguel Cabrera. I mean, a lot of good players that were on that team that you know ended up being either future Hall of Famers or you know Hall of Famers. But you got 3 players this year. A lot of them were on the ballot. But Adrian Beltre, I knew for a fact the moment he retired that he was going to get in. I mean, he's a lifetime 286 hitter. You know, just literally, 23 bombs shy of 500, 477, 1,700 RBIs. Now, this is what I knew for a fact that was going to get him in there, 3,166 hits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is a shoe-in automatically to where
How many
he's going
years
to
did
get
he wind
in.
up playing?
I think it was 17.
17, 18, something like that. Yeah.
You know, but I remember whenever he broke in with the Dodgers, and then they traded him to was it Seattle, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then went to Boston and stuff like that. And, you know, came around, but I mean, he's 4-time All-Star. He got 5-time Gold Glove, which that's pretty impressive. 4-time Silver Slugger, 2-time Platinum Glove. That's what I always look at.
Yep.
Platinum gloves, you know, or like the
best
batting
of the
title.
best. Yep.
Exactly,
best
right?
Of the best.
Exactly. Which that's one of the reasons why I don't know why Matt Chapman isn't signed because he's got 2 of those things, but. Todd Helton. I always thought Todd Helton was a Hall of Famer whenever I saw him. Not because of his home runs or anything, but because of how well he can hit the ball. You know, a lot of doubles, finding holes.
A lot of doubles.
Yeah,
a lot.
A lot. And he's got a 316 lifetime, which he ain't no slouch. And that's what 17 years he played.
Colorado effect.
Get out of here! I don't believe in that. You got to still hit the ball. Got to still hit the ball.
I mean, I have it right here. He was a 345 hitter at home and 287 on the road.
287, that ain't bad.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That gets him in the Hall of
Fame.
That's a split. That is a crazy split. If it was a little closer, I wouldn't be making this argument.
I wonder what Arenado's was. Whenever he was in Colorado, question. You know, we'll have to look that up. Next episode, we'll look that up. But you know, Todd had 369 bombs, 1,400 RBIs. 2,519 hits, 5-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, 4-time Silver Slugger, won the 2000 batting title, and that year Jeff Kent won the MVP in the National League. And to be honest, I don't know how Todd Helton didn't win it. I mean, he led the National League in hits, doubles, RBIs. He literally hit 372 that year, slugging 463. And his on base or his OPS was 1.162 with a total of 405 bases. So he led the league at all that. He still didn't win the MVP. 372? Now, I don't know why Jeff Kent is not in the Hall of Fame because he's got the most home runs by any second baseman, which that's kind of crazy. But we all know how the writers are sometimes. If they don't like you,
they don't like you.
No, exactly. Curt Schilling is a perfect example. That dude's got over 3,000 strikeouts, and he still ain't in. Tell me how that makes sense.
It doesn't.
You know, but I've always loved Joe Mauer. I've always thought he was just a professional. Him being a lefty, him with Todd Helton, I'm a little biased towards lefties because I love lefties because I'm a lefty. But as a catcher, I think that other than maybe a couple guys, Nat Blajaho, Mickey Cochran, Yogi Berra, Yachty, just a lot of great catchers. Johnny Bench,
Buster Posey, maybe?
Buster Posey, Ted Simmons, a lot of those guys that are or not in the Hall of Fame. I thought Joe Mauer, I didn't think he was going to be a first year, but I knew he was going to get enough votes to be on there and then eventually. But if you go back and you look at his stats, 306 lifetime, didn't hit a lot of bombs, which that's okay.
He was a doubles guy.
He was 143
he was a line
bombs.
Drive, inside out type of guy.
Exactly. 923 RBIs, 2,123 hits, 6-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, which that's good as a catcher, 5-time Silver Slugger, and he was an MVP in 09, hit 365 in 09, but this is what got him in the Hall of Fame. 3-time batting champion. I mean, that means if anybody who's not a baseball fan that listens to this show, batting title means you had the best average out of anybody, whether you're in the National League or the American League. And I think that him doing that 3 times shows his stability as a hitter, maybe not necessarily as a catcher, because, I think like last 5 or 6 years he played first.
Yeah, I think he was more of a DH first type of guy towards the end of his career.
But I mean, it's tough. I mean, not everybody's like Tony Gwynn or Stan the Man or Ted Williams, to where they have a lot of batting titles. But I think that ultimately is what got him in. And I think that him having that 306 lifetime batting average has a lot to do with it too. Because if you have 3,000 hits, close to 500 home runs like Beltre, 286 is actually fine.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's
exactly.
Pretty much where you want to be.
Exactly, right. But I mean, you got a couple guys that were on the ballot. Like I saw Chase Utley was on there for the first year, which I like Chase Utley. He's a very, very good clutch hitter. I mean, his WAR was absolutely insane, for the last, for a certain amount of time, whenever him and Jimmy and Ryan Howard and Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, Cole Hamels. And then, I think that he will. I don't know if he'll eventually get in. It depends upon the riders, but there are a couple guys to whenever you and I both know that when we saw them play, they should have been in there. One, I'm going to talk about Billy Wagner. Other than maybe Eric Gagne, Francisco Rodriguez, Trevor Hoffman, there's a lot of good closers that came in that Billy Wagner is right up there. And Billy Wagner's on his 9th year, and he still didn't get in.
Yeah, I don't know if they just don't appreciate the save anymore or what. I mean, I have no idea.
It's got to be something.
It has to be something around that. But
and that's.
I saw the tail end of his career, and even when he was with the Braves for 1 year.
1 year, and he could have stayed, but he decided to retire. He could have kept playing.
Yeah, even in that 1 year, I was young at the time, but I was like, dang, this guy throws hard.
He originally threw right-handed and injured his arm and switched to left-handed. Yeah, he was a southpaw.
I did not know that.
That's why he's a Hall of Famer right there. That's crazy. And if you ask any of the guys, like if you ask like Mike Piazza or Beltran or David Wright, I mean even Travis d'Arnaud, they'll tell you that Billy Wagner is definitely a Hall of Famer. Even in Houston, whenever he's with Houston, whenever you have, like, I remember Lance Berkman and Andy Pettit and Roger Clemens were talking about him, and even Craig Biggio. Craig Biggio was talking about how he would see him every day, and he was thinking, well, this game's over with. Every time he'd come in from the bullpen, because he knew, and that confidence that you have as a teammate says a lot. But how the Riders are. I mean, if they don't like you, then they're not going to vote you in.
They don't like you. Sorry.
But there's one outfielder, T-DAWG.
Oh, don't even get me started on this one.
That we saw for a long time, at least 10 years straight, because the guy has the Gold Gloves to prove it. 10 years straight. And
10 years in a row.
And he didn't get voted in.
Man, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if they want longevity. I mean, he was the best hitter, by far the best outfielder during those 10 years. I just don't understand what the problem is. I know he's gone up in percentage every single year, and I think he winds up getting in on probably his last year. So here in the next 2 years, he'll probably get in. But, I mean, right here, 10 Gold Gloves. This is the one that kind of stands out to
And we're
me.
talking about Andrew Jones, everybody.
Yeah. 24.4 defensive WAR, according to Baseball Reference. That's 5.6 more than any other outfielder ever.
In the history of the game.
Ever.
Even more than Willie Mays.
Ever.
Wow.
Ever. I mean, you have a guy like Ozzie Smith in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Because of his glove.
Because of his glove.
Defensive, yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand. And to be honest, he should have won the MVP in 05. When he hit the 51 home runs.
Who won it?
I think
Pujols did.
won it
Yep,
that
that's
year.
right. He did. Yep.
You can make a case for that. I mean, that's long and gone. That was 20 years ago. But I mean, I just don't know what they don't see in him. I really don't. And he's, and we're lucky to be Braves fan. He's around the Braves 24/7. I mean, you see something about the Braves, they have these little Sunday alumni games that they usually do. And for the most part, he's pretty much there all the time. And if many people don't know this, Ozzie Albies looked up to him. There's actually a picture that floats around in his head every now and then of Ozzie Albies. I don't know how old he was.
Right?
Yeah,
he looks angry in that picture.
I mean, he was, what do you think, 6, 7, 8 years old maybe? With a
looks exactly the same.
Yeah, looks exactly. You could tell it was Ozzie at that age.
Yeah.
But I mean, people looked up to him, and it shows. Like I said, I just don't know what they don't see.
And it's funny that you say that, T, because whenever we're watching him all these years and you see what he does, I seriously think that sometimes because you see him do these amazing plays and his ability to catch the ball, it's almost like you expect him to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you get it that people downplay it because that's what they expect. But then I saw an article years ago with Willie Mays. And Willie Mays said that Andrew Jones is the best center fielder he has ever seen. He said, including me. And I mean,
that's high praise right
King
there.
Griffey Jr. Right, King Griffey Jr. is definitely. I mean, we all know he's a Hall of Famer, but one of the most electric players that we have ever seen in this game. And Andrew Jones was better defensively than him. 10 straight Gold Gloves. Now, I think that the writers are talking about his last couple of years where his average dipped and stuff like that, which that doesn't matter, but. I think there's only just a couple players with 10 Gold Gloves and hitting over 400 home runs. I think there's only one or two other players.
I think the only outfielders, I have this written down here, the only outfielders to have 10 plus more Gold Gloves, Roberto Clemente and Willie Mays himself.
Right, both most definitely 100% first ballot Hall of Famers. Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sure if Roberto Clemente was still here to this day, he would tell you the same
thing. Oh my
thing.
gosh, he had a rocket arm. Have you ever seen videos of him throwing it from right field? Oh my gosh.
Sounds like Rick Ankiel.
Yes, Rick Ankiel. Hey, Ricky, man, that home run that you hit in San Francisco, that was a bomb. Yeah. That was a bomb. Another lefty.
We love our lefties around here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But Gary Sheffield, that's it for him. This was his last year. Now they have the players committee where they can vote them in. That's how Phil Rizzuto got in. Right, exactly. But him having 500 home runs, I think his lifetime is almost like 289 or 290 or something like that. And his hits, he's got over 26 or 2,700. But I mean, his 500 home runs. That's not what the argument is. We all know what the argument is. Was he using performance-enhancing drugs? Well, if he was, okay. But if he's not, okay. But we all know for a fact there are men that are in the Hall of Fame now that openly admitted it, or there was evidence that they are in there. So it can change the dynamic for so many things. And especially if that happens, then if we're okay with that, then there's a lot of other players that need to be in there also, including Barry Bonds. I mean, I'm not saying that performance enhancers can affect your ability to hit the ball further, but you still got to be able to hit the ball, right?
That's correct.
I mean, it's tough. It is a known fact. The hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a baseball.
If you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you are a Hall of Famer.
You're considered a good performer. That's right. Exactly. Spoken like a true champion right out of Ted Williams' mouth. But Gary Sheffield, it's very unfortunate. Because especially whenever his time was in Atlanta, and Chipper Jones said the same thing. Gary Sheffield was a great teammate. Went out there, did his job and stuff like that. And if you've got a Hall of Famer like Chipper Jones talking positively about you, and Chipper's a no BS kind of guy. I mean, with the writers them saying that because of some kind of cream that he used for assist that was on the back of his leg, and that's certain things and. I mean, I haven't seen the reports, from Florida, whenever there's, A-Rod was on there, Ortiz and Giambi and all kinds of other guys, Piazza and stuff like that. They were supposedly, quote unquote, on the report, but it was never proven. But I mean, either way, I mean the 500 home runs that should be an automatic, like 500 home runs, 3,000 hits. That should be automatic, But once again, the writers freaking screwed up on this, and then now. Gary Sheffield is no longer on the ballot. No longer on the ballot. And it's only going to take a players committee to vote him back in. which
Doesn't it take another 5 or 7 years until he's eligible for that as well?
I don't know exactly, but now he's off the Baseball Writers Association of America ballot, and then now the Players Committee, just like they did with Phil Rizzuto, Yogi Berra got Phil Rizzuto in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why I keep coming back to that, but that's the only one I can really remember.
Isn't that how Fred McGriff got in too?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. There we go, T-DAWG. See, there you go. That's a good contribution right here.
Yeah. That was only 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or last year.
Was it last year?
I think so. Yeah. I think it was last year.
Time goes by so fast.
These seasons kind of run together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we'll blink and opening day, and then we blink again in postseason,
right,
baby.
And Fred McGriff, Crime Dog, is one of those guys to where how did he not get in before?
Yeah, it's just
another lefty. I have to add in that, but I mean it's every year we're gonna look to see, because I think they after they got voted in, they showed a couple other guys that are going to be on the ballot next year and stuff like that, which. I was looking at some guys like Brian Roberts. I love me some Brian Roberts. Great switch hitter.
I
but
don't know.
They're not Hall of Fame.
They're in the Hall of Great.
Yes,
Hall of Great.
Exactly, right.
You have, your 280 hitters who don't hit for a lot of power, who play their 15, 20 years or whatever. Hall of Great. I mean, it is a thing.
Yeah.
I think Hall of Fame should be reserved for the greatest of greats.
Yeah, and
it doesn't need to be just a write-in. Oh yeah, he played 15 years of great baseball. He needs to go in. You need to look at specifics of these type of things, and I mean it shows by some of these people not getting in. I mean there's reasons we have these conversations every single year when this comes around on why this guy didn't get in, why this guy did get in. I mean everybody has their opinions about different things, but at the end of the day, the greatest of the greats need to get in the Hall of Fame. We don't need to make it just a shoe-in to get in. Oh, yeah, you played your 15 years, you got your 2,000 hits or whatever, and hey, yep, you're a Hall of Famer. I just don't think that's the way it is. I think the way it is now, I think is fine, but there needs to be some of these guys on this list. I think deserve more than 1,000%.
I agree, and I just don't. Whenever you look at Andrew Jones' stats. And then what do you think these writers are looking at whenever they're looking at his stats? What are they looking at? What are they freaking looking at?
Go look at the film.
Yeah.
Look up Andrew Jones center field highlights. Within a minute, you'll be amazed.
So I usually take a trip to Cooperstown like once every 2 years. We're trying to do it every year, but with the renting a car and going to a cabin and stuff like that, it's gone up tremendously. But they have this huge big screen, and of course you got to go up through levels, and they have this huge big screen, so whenever you're walking in, whether it's near like old lockers or stuff like that or big glass boxes, but literally about 5 of those highlights of catches are all Andrew Jones. No joke. We all know the one where catch behind his back and he kind of jumps on the wall and then hops off. The one that was in the Rogers Center, I think in Toronto or maybe Minnesota, where he literally is not even in the camera's view. And he comes out of nowhere and catches the ball to end the game. I mean, these are serious, great highlights. And then, everybody can have a highlight, but then what did he actually do with his career? And then you look at that and you're thinking, wow, 10 straight Gold Gloves? I mean, he's no Greg Maddux, which. But, I mean, comparing to the players that were there now, it's very, very tough to not understand why these guys are not in there, only because of his consistency and how well he did over that time, But I guess, only time will tell. I mean, I have no idea what these guys are thinking about, but, it's something, where I'm glad that we can sit here and vent about it, because sometimes it pisses me off.
Yeah,
it really does.
I agree.
Because he deserves to be in there, and he deserves to have his name on the plaque in the halls, just like, Mauer, Helton, Beltre, and of course, Jim Leland being the great manager that he was. But sometimes it's you wonder what exactly are these guys looking at? Are they looking at the last couple years whenever he just didn't do well? Which I understand that, but that completely erases what he did for those 10 straight years. Where his average, if you look it up on Baseball Reference, his average games played for all those years they played, 162. So
Every
he can't literally break his body every single year and think that he's always going to be on top. He sacrificed his body because that's what kind of player he was, And those 2 home runs that he hit in New York as a 19-year-old kid was absolutely insane, But those are the things that stick out in my mind. But maybe these writers, they don't think about that kind of stuff, and that's what I don't understand, But I digress. They get me hyped up on this, man.
I see.
I'm telling you, goodness. But the 2024 season is right around the corner.
I can't wait.
And I can't wait for these guys to get down to Florida. I can't wait to see. The good thing about spring training is, I love seeing these new guys that are coming up from minor league that, really standing out, showing what they got. Like, was it Waldrop?
Hudson Waldrop.
Yeah,
he's a
good pitcher.
Guy out of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He made it all the way up to AAA. I know at one point they were deciding on if they wanted him on the postseason roster there for the Phillies NLDS series. I thought he had a good chance. He has a good fastball.
Mm-hmm.
He has a nasty splitter. Nasty splitter. Just drops off the table. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if we'll see him this year with the amount of guys coming off of injuries this year. Who knows how they react?
Right.
We may see him at some point, kind of. Injuries happen. We know Max Fried, Chris Sale. Charlie's wanted to go down as well. And, you got Bryce Elder coming back for his second full year of Major League Baseball.
Great first half.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of, his first full year of Major League Baseball. I mean, these guys, they don't throw that many innings in minor leagues. It makes you wonder sometimes if, the bigger workload every fifth day.
I think so.
Has some type of, effect on these guys. It'll be nice to see Elder to come back and have a good bounce back year, whether him being in the role of a starting pitcher at that 5 spot again this year, whether him start off in AAA, depending on how all that works. Don't know how ready Ian Anderson's going to be. Huascar Ynoa, those guys coming off injuries, it's hard to tell with Tommy John.
AJ Smith-Shawver.
AJ Smith-Shawver, that's another guy. That's another guy that has a big upside, I think. So we'll see. Tyler Matzik also coming back in the bullpen. It's going to be interesting to see how much these guys actually throw in spring training as well. Them coming off these injuries and everything. TJ, I know it's kind of a thought of yesterday.
It's funky. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Everybody reacts different. I think it's the second time Tyler Matzik's actually had TJ. I think he's going to be all right. I think you probably see him start off a little slow. But I think he'll be all right. But it's going to be very interesting spring training just to see these, like you said, younger guys and also these pitchers coming back from injuries. And Chris Sale also having a full regular offseason for the first time in how many years? 5 or 6 years? 5 or
6 years to where he ain't got nothing to do but just pitch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting just to see how all these guys come and obviously mesh together. I know they had Brace Fest last week and, all the guys got together for the first time this year. It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited for the year, though.
There's one guy.
World Series or bust, though, for the Braves, I think.
As Spencer Strider did say, which I love that mentality. And there's one guy that I don't know why, but I'm just so intrigued by what he can do in a different environment, Jared Kelenic.
Oh, yes. I am excited to see what he can do. I am excited to see what he can do. I've heard great things. He's former first-round
with the Mets, right?
Pick. Yeah, Mets, and I think he got traded over to San Fran. I forget what trade that was that he got traded. It was a big name. I know
what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
It's going to be very interesting to see because when we traded for him, the all talk was, well, what about Von Grissom? What is he going to do? Is he going to platoon? And then we got that answer pretty fast after that when they traded for Chris Sale.
Which I think that they actually did him a favor.
I think so. He was stuck. He was never going to do anything. He was going to be a utility type
and he's
player.
He's not an outfielder.
No.
And he's a good utility guy. I just don't think that – I think Boston is in need of that because they've got what's his name from Colorado? I don't know why I can't think of him. Trevor Story coming back, finally healthy.
Yeah.
And then he may play short, he may play second, but if you put Trevor Story where he belongs back at short, put Von Grissom at second. And then that is your up the middle guys right there.
Devers at third and Casas at first.
Rafael Devers is solid.
Casas, his brother actually plays for South Carolina.
No way.
Yeah, he's Casas. Yeah, he's good. I liked when we played Boston up there. I think he was going off against us Braves. I'm talking about. I'm excited to see him in a full second year as well. Up in Boston. I follow pretty much all these ex-South Carolina guys. That's the reason I said something about Jordan Montgomery coming from SC. I was really hoping the Braves would go after him. I think he stays a Ranger, though. Yeah, I mean, they could be waiting around to see who else. And I think the Braves actually signed for an outfielder from the Rangers and just to maybe a little bit bench depth or something like that. But I'm so excited to see what Jared Kelenic can do because I think that
he may have been misunderstood in Seattle, about him having an attitude and stuff like that, which this game is not easy. And this game gets very frustrating, especially if you know you can play, but sometimes, the chips may not fall exactly where you think they're going to fall. But him being in a better environment, and I think that Kevin Seitzer is going to just say, hey, man, sometimes you got to know it's nothing that you're doing in the cage or on the field. Sometimes you just got to put it down and stop thinking about it. Just go out there and do.
Just do.
And I think that's what's giving him confidence because he has no pressure. I mean, you're in the same lineup as Acuna, Olsen, Riley.
He's going to be batting probably 8th if I had to guess. Michael Harris will be batting 9th. He has
like that.
zero pressure down there.
Yep.
I mean, in Seattle, I think he was 4th or 5th hitter.
Yeah,
I mean, he had to be that guy
he
that drove
had to be that
the
reliable
runs.
guy to supplement J-Rod.
Yeah, and in Atlanta, he's not going to be the guy or even close to the top 3, 4, 5 guys.
Yep.
I think he's going to be just fine. I think he may struggle coming out the gate being a new place, but I think he'll be all right. I think we're going to see a big year. I think around the 20 home run mark is going to be a good mark for him.
That's pretty solid, with all these new teams coming up and new guys and stuff like that. We got spring training just right around the corner, but hey, T, it was. Thank you for stopping by, man. It was amazing. You've been asking me for so long to come by. We finally got you on here. Got you stamped.
Yeah, going on about a year now asking. Yeah. Finally got in here. Hopefully.
Hey, that means the show is sustainable. We're staying on with it. And everybody, thank you so much for listening. We're going to keep you going, especially during the offseason is our hardest time because a lot of times there is no baseball going on. And this year, it kind of sucked because there weren't a lot of deals going on, but we got 56 days till opening day, about a week and a half, 2 weeks before pitchers and catchers report. And, we're just moving along. So we're getting in the fast lane again. And that peach pass, baby, and we're going to keep on going. We've been in the slow lane for like the last couple months.
Yeah, we're going straight down 75.
Yeah, that's right,
baby. Straight to spring training.
That's right. But watch out for 400. Wolverine, he got caught on that today, baby. Yeah, but before we go, I want to say this. San Diego studio, you picking Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the show for the cover of MLB The Show for this year. I thought that was a terrible decision. There could have been so many other choices. That's like a Jazz Chisholm change. But, I digress. But anyways, it's been a pleasure. Everybody, thanks for stopping by again. Got Wolverine behind the board. Got T-DAWG. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Go Braves, baby.
60 feet, 6 inches. Keep your grass green and your pants dirty. See you later.